This is Sara Hall, and this is a PowerPoint presentation based on my review of literature about the education in Finland for Dr. Witt's Independent Study Course 595. In the last 30 years, Finland has progressed from a mediocre education system to being a model and top performer on international assessment data, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's Program for International Student Assessment, or the PISA tests. In addition to high-performing scores on math, reading, and science, Finland has created an education system where there is little variation in student performance between students from different socioeconomic backgrounds and between schools in different parts of the country. Professional educators and researchers have been looking to Finland's success story, taking ideology and methodology from this Finnish miracle back to their countries in hopes to make positive change in their own country. This literature review aims to explore the factors that contribute to Finland's educational successes. The first factor that we're going to examine is the structure of their national education system. In Finland, Early Childhood Education and Care, or ECEC, provides preschool-aged children with child care needs and early childhood education. Daycare services are open to every child free of charge, and municipalities provide the funding and administrative overseeing of these ECECs. According to the Ministry of Social Affairs and Health, the ECEC claims to promote children's positive self-image, develop expressive and interactive skills, enhance learning and develop thinking, and support children's overall well-being. Compulsory education begins at the age of 7 and lasts for 9 or 10 years. After compulsory education, students may choose to enter upper secondary education, which approximately 90% of the students do, or they can enter the workforce at age 16. Upper secondary school is divided into two choices: general upper secondary education and vocational upper secondary education. All students in upper secondary school have personalized learning plans that are not tied to age groups or classes. Typically, students take 3 years to complete both general and vocational upper secondary school, although timelines are flexible and individually based. General secondary education is an all-round academic education preparing students for a matriculation exam and future university enrollment. Vocational upper secondary school's primary objective is obtaining vocational competence in order to enter the workforce upon graduation. General upper secondary education is viewed more academic, while vocational education is viewed as more hands-on or doing and making. Vocational education can also be viewed as a quicker route for working-class youth into the workforce. Vocational training includes 112 different study programs, and each student must spend at least half a year at a real workplace for on-the-job training and learning. Another factor contributing to the success of Finland's education is their culture of education. Learning and education are considered important resources in Finland. Both education and the teaching profession have traditionally been held in high regard. Teachers receive high social prestige, professional autonomy in schools, and public service acknowledgement in Finland. The teaching profession is seen on par with other professions where people work independently using scientific knowledge and skills gained through university and are trusted professionals. Finland's education has succeeded in obtaining a smaller achievement gap based on socioeconomic and geographic differences than other OECD countries. As a well-functioning democratic welfare state, equity is an important part of Finnish culture. All children, by law, have the right to free childcare, health care, education, and welfare services. In Finland, education works in tandem with other sectors, particularly health and social sectors. All students receive complimentary school lunches, comprehensive welfare services including healthcare, counseling services, and career counseling, and educational support systems. Special education is also important in the total child for Finnish education. Going hand in hand with the concept of equity, special education for students who are in need of additional services is available. Special education is an integral part of Finland's school curricula, and all municipalities and schools host trained experts to support students with special needs. The early recognition of learning disabilities or learning difficulties and social and behavioral problems leads to appropriate professional support. The primary aim of special education is to help and support students by giving them equal opportunities to complete school alongside their peers in accordance with their abilities. In the primary years, intensive support, especially in the areas of reading, writing, and arithmetic, are offered to children who have major and minor needs. Early recognition of special needs is crucial to proper development, and special education support is generally higher in primary years than later years of compulsory school. Regarding school funding, surprisingly, Finland is not included in the top developed countries regarding expenditures for education. According to the OECD, in 2014, Denmark, Iceland, Korea, New Zealand, and Norway spent the highest amount on all levels of education per gross domestic product. Switzerland, the United States, Norway, Austria, and Sweden are the highest spenders on education per student, and New Zealand, Mexico, Brazil, Korea, and Switzerland are the highest spenders on education as a percentage of total public expenditure. In Finland, funding is shared by the state and local officials. The government funds approximately 57% of primary and secondary education, while municipalities fund around 43% of the cost. There is no government funding for private schooling. The next factor, teachers. Many resources claim that the most important factor in the success of Finland's education is the quality of its teachers. There are many factors that contribute to the high quality of teachers in Finland. The teaching profession, as we've already discussed, is very popular in Finland. There are typically a large number of applicants to education university programs, and applicants must face strong entrance requirements. In addition, the government controls the number of admissions into university education programs, which is dependent on the demographic patterns and employment expectations in the education sector. Students applying to university education programs must have high scores on their matriculation exam, and they may also take a national selection test called the Vakava. In addition, each university has further requirements for application, such as participation in extracurricular activities, personality and interpersonal skills, and an entrance exam that tests knowledge of educational pedagogical literature. Candidates are also evaluated on social interaction, communication skills, and motivation through experimental conditions and interviews that mimic everyday school situations. Typically, universities only admit the top 10% of applicants into their university education programs, selecting the brightest, highly motivated, and multi-talented students into the teaching profession. For teacher credentials, all teachers for primary, middle, and high schools hold a master's degree, which typically takes 5 to 7.5 years to complete. Primary school teachers, or the equivalent to our grades 1 through 6, major in education, while upper grade teachers, 7 through the end of compulsory education, concentrate on a particular subject alongside pedagogical content knowledge. Teacher education is based on a combination of research, practice, reflection, and subject content. Finally, the 8 Finnish universities in Finland are the only organizations entitled to issue teacher licenses. There are no alternative certification programs such as Teach for America or online certifications that act as shortcuts into the teacher certification. Curriculum and assessment are two other factors in the success of Finland's education. Over the decades of educational reform, Finnish teachers have demanded more autonomy and responsibility for curriculum and student assessment. The National Curriculum Framework for Basic Education provides guidance regarding content that students must master in each course or grade, while it is the responsibility of the school and municipalities to plan curriculum. Local authorities, teachers, and principals play key roles in collaboration and curriculum design. Now, in contrast to many other developed nations, Finland does not utilize market-based competition and high-stakes testing policies. Students must take a matriculation exam at the end of high school. However, the education community in Finland has remained unconvinced that the use of standardized testing is good for student learning. Finnish education believes that instruction is the key element that influences what students learn in school, not standards, assessments, or alternative instructional programs. Because personalized learning and creativity are high educational priorities, the progress of each student is judged against his or her individual development and abilities rather than statistical indicators. It is a widely accepted philosophy that teachers are the best judges of how their own students are progressing in school. Now, even though Finland has remained a model for others to look at, there are growing concerns about Finnish education. First of all, in upper secondary education, there's a growing gender gap between applicants for general secondary education and vocational education. Approximately 42% of boys choose general secondary education and 49% choose vocational education. In contrast with 60% of girls choosing general education for secondary and only 32% of girls choose vocational secondary education. There's also a socioeconomic gap in secondary schooling. Several studies suggest that white middle-class youth from educated families more often choose general upper secondary education than young people with working class or ethnic minority backgrounds. Another concern is the worldwide attention that Finland has received for its educational success has resulted in a flow of educational and pedagogical tourists from abroad. There are concerns in the education sector that outsiders do not see the Finland big picture of education's success and equity. And finally, unfortunately, in recent years, Finland's PISA scores have slowly been declining. When asked about the potential causes of Finland's decline, discussion of economic recession, decreased time spent on reading and reading comprehension due to increased use of technology, and the rise of immigrants whose children are not accustomed to Finnish schools or the national language are often quoted as factors on the decline. Currently, Finland is in the process of reforming its educational system once again. Finland is integrating a phenomenon-based learning system where students and teachers study one concept or phenomenon and examine it through different lenses. By exploring one concept from many different perspectives, such as geography, history, economics, and arts, students will experience more holistic and interdisciplinary learning. So for my conclusion, in the past few decades, Finland has succeeded in providing its citizens with quality and equitable education. It's a worldwide leader in the field, and educators, policymakers, and researchers are looking towards this peaceful country for answers. The literature emphasizes that Finnish education factors of trust, teacher professionalism, and taking care of those with special needs are primary factors that distinguish Finnish schools from most others. However, when outsiders consider specific elements to possibly implement into their own countries, they must consider the totality of what makes Finland's education work. It's not only one factor that claims responsibility for educational success, but many elements working together for common national goals that make the system successful within their given culture. Thank you very much.